All right, I call to order the Public Works and Utility Committee meeting on Wednesday, April 17th, 2024 at 5 p.m. Lisbon Village Hall. Roll call, please.
Chair Moonen,
Present.
Vice Chair Beal,
Here.
Member Everly,
Here.
Member Miller,
Here.
Member Pless,
Here.
Engineer Neitzel,
Here.
Utility Accountant Sargent,
Here.
Administrator Nicholas, here, DPW Director Willikowski,
Here.
and Clerk Deposit to record the minutes.
All right, stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, citizens' comments. Anyone in public wish to speak? Seeing and hearing none, we'll move to Zoom.
No one's present on Zoom.
No one present on Zoom. Approval of the meeting minutes. In your packet is March 20th, 2024 Public Works Utility Committee draft. Any changes to the draft? If not, I'd be looking for a motion for approval.
I make a motion, we approve the draft.
Motion made by Ms. Beal,
Second.
second by Mr. Everly. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed for 5-0. Departmental reports, Public Works Director Willikowski.
We had one winter event, pretty small one. I just want to shout out to Mike Marks from the fire department for helping us out. The 1 tons cleaning parking lots. That was a big help because we were shorthanded for that storm. We did pre-treat before that storm. Finished up some tree cutting on Oakwood and Plainview. Did some stump grinding. And the compost site, we did grinding for brush and the yard waste. That went pretty smooth and prepped the compost site and looked pretty good. And then I was helping out in the field on and off some days and then just still learning the daily tasks that the position entails.
For knowledge, when does the compost site open?
So
Already did, right?
Yep.
The 13th, yeah.
All right. All right, anything for the director?
If you could, plow markers, Beacon
Yeah.
Hills, yeah, they're still out there.
Yep, we'll be getting to those hopefully maybe Friday, but we usually grab the dirt brush, pick up all the.
Okay, yeah, that's cool. Good idea.
We'll get to them
Do we have a date on brush starting?
Monday. Second.
Monday.
I imagine you're gonna have a
Bunch. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, just from what I see laying out there, that the wind hasn't blown onto the roads.
Right. Well, people that went to the compost site too, I mean, how much people brought brush up there?
Yeah.
Probably said like 700 cars in 2 days.
Wow.
Or Richard.
And so, I mean, it's loaded up there with stuff already, so I mean. There's a lot out there.
What do you do when one of the residents don't put it correctly? You know, from the street on and they don't lay it there correctly
Like
for you to pick
stacked
it up?
nicely or something.
Yeah, they're not stacked, just kind of thrown and twisted and turned.
We still pick it up.
Do you?
Because, I mean, to police it, it'd be, not, I mean, there'd be a lot of houses that kind of police it and
Yeah,
the grapple does a pretty good job of kind of snarling up, but we do appreciate when people do stack it, we do remember that.
oh, yeah,
We do definitely notice it when people do a good job
There's,
stacking.
it's good plowed.
yeah.
Are we doing the daily status maps on Facebook?
Yes, I plan.
All right, any other questions? All right, next we're looking for utility district. Don Neitzel, we'll start with you.
All right, good evening. In your packets, my report. Start with the flows for March. The month started out right away near average, but quickly went up with the rainfall that we had in March. We had average flows of 44 gallons a minute for Janine, 42 for Plainview. Willow Springs, actually, the reporting went down. They weren't getting any readings. So Sussex called in LW Allen for that. So for the month, what we did is we just used an average of the past couple of years. So it was in between 22 and what we had for 23. So that's where we got the 57 gallons a minute for Willow Springs. It is back up and running now. Dustin from Sussex sent me an email earlier this week that it's back up and operating. Any questions with those?
Who pays for Sussex to come out?
Well, LW Allen will come out. Sussex just goes out and
Okay,
sees what the issue is, and then from there they call them out to.
right. Who pays for LW Allen? Does the trailer park pay or we pay?
When the Sussex calls LWL out, they'll pay them and then they add it to our bill.
Oh,
So it's on our sewer bill. So if you ever look at the detail of the sewer bill, it's treatment, and then there's some charges for Sussex workers, Sussex equipment,
Right.
utility that Sussex pays, and then any subcontractor that
Mhm.
Sussex pays, and that we get our proportionate share on that bill.
So you don't turn around and bill the trailer park? That's not appropriate?
It's the trailer park. The trailer park has got their fixed price that they pay. for-
Right.
That they have paid for all along, and then they pay for their treatment just like anybody else.
Okay, so we pay for their issues, okay. Okay, thank you.
Any other question on Plainview, Janine, or Willow Springs? The one thing I did note on the graphs that Matt in my office put together for you, the rainfall for March. Something seemed goofy with that, so I'll have him double check that going into next month, and then Willow Springs will look goofy just because we used an average for the month. When you look at that,
We talked last month about where we get rainfall from.
yep, and I did talk to Dustin myself, and he said they used the National Weather Service.
It's just hard for me to believe the treatment plant doesn't have a rain gauge.
I asked him twice. They said, that's what you guys use for your numbers. He said, yeah.
Because I've got 3 different sites that I do because I'm anal. And between Merton, which is a half-mile away, where I am, and what they report for Sussex, the difference is. Okay,
Yeah, I called and talked to him myself. I got the same answer.
okay, that's what I thought you said.
Any other questions on those?
Mm-mm.
All right, then moving on to Richmond School Lift Station, as I said, new pumps are in, everything appears to be working fine with those. As I mentioned in last month's meeting, the flows that we get from them are calculated through their SCADA system based on pump run times. I talked to them more about that following last month's meeting. They were using a flow rate of 100 gallons a minute, which is why the flows are so inflated on the reports that we get. Then in further discussions with them, the school is actually billed per well meter that Sussex has on that well.
Say that again. So they're billed
They're billed based on their water usage.
and not what's coming to the.
Correct. So they just calculate, they run that report for the lift station just so they can pay attention to pumps are running, how long they're running. But they had a factor in of 100 gallons a minute. I said, our pumps are rated for 40 gallons a minute. I said that the numbers,
But then we're being billed off of the.
The well.
lift
Water
station,
the well,
The well.
correct. So like I have in the report, and we do have charts for Richmond School, Casey's and the fire station for the well usage. I got all that stuff from Sussex, so that's in your packet. But the water reading at Richmond was 44,000 gallons for March. And the lift station would have calced out after they changed it to 40 gallons a minute, that would have calced out at 86,000 gallons yet. Our pumps are maybe doing 20 gallons. a minute.
Right, because we know that the restriction.
Right, right.
So what can we do about that?
And the month before, based on their calculation at 100 gallons a minute, it was showing we were at 199,000 gallons for the month. So
And what about the fire station?
the fire station, that's the next one down. That was a leaky toilet.
But I can't believe it's leaking that much.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
I think I gave Mark an example. If a toilet was leaking half a gallon a minute, I mean, it's
Well,
pretty substantial.
we had a guy who used over 200,000 gallons in a quarter. That's when it was going, so.
Yeah, no, I was saying a leaking toilet leaking a half gallon of half gallon per minute would equate to 21,600 gallons per month on a 30-day month.
But the charts for the wells are the blue and the yellow,
Yeah,
so. Richmond, I mean, that is what it is. We'll, keep monitoring that, but. Like Richmond, the well for the month of February was 40,700 gallons, and then March was 44,000 gallons. Which for a school of 400 something odd people, I mean, that seems pretty light for usage, but. I wasn't gonna argue. If you look at Casey's. You can find that one. 2023 shown in the blue, you can see they were under 25,000. And then basically they shot up in January and February, and that's because of that flushing issue at their well. I have not heard back from their engineer whether or not they ran that down the sewer. I do know it was outside, but I don't know if they had a hose on it and were running through a sewer, if it was strictly discharging outside. If it went in the sewer, Sussex is willing to give them a deduct on the bill.
you would think when they got the humongous bill that they would, I guess, never mind.
And then the last one would be the firehouse. You see that one?
Mhm.
2023 started off pretty good, and then around April, flow started shooting up. They peaked in October. And then somewhere December, January, they must have either got the toilet repaired or replaced. And flows are back down even lower than what they were in 23, in February and March.
I mean,
Fire
and
truck
the,
is about 4,800 gallons average for 3 months, and the fire station stuff. And Richmond is about 45,000 gallons on average.
On average.
Big difference between the two. Using that pipe.
and they're running. The fire station is being built off
The
the
well,
well.
correct.
So when they wash trucks,
I don't think anybody at Sussex is thinking about that. That's the way their billings off the well.
I mean, to me, they're probably using as much, if not more, washing vehicles than they are. In a couple of toilets when people are there.
But that wash water goes into the sanitary.
You sure it does?
I would assume so. Unless,
I wouldn't assume anything in that building.
are you saying that they wash them outside, but they've got to wash them inside periodically?
I don't know. There's a lot of different things about that building,
The fire station?
yeah. I mean, I don't, obviously in January, they're not washing trucks outside,
Which is primarily when you're washing.
yeah. Anyway.
I don't know if this is the time to talk, or we need to put on the agenda for next month. Can we just start talking about the 65 and 35, because we talked last month that with the fire department is being billed a lot more than what the school is for the number of 400 some people in the school?
Exactly.
Yeah, so either can we talk about it now, or can we put it on the agenda for next month? Okay,
And we can get a copy of whatever the heck agreement we've got
Yes.
between. The school,
and we also have an agreement, is it 60-40 for something else, Mike?
65-35.
Oh, I thought there were two.
No,
Is that just for, that's for Richmond School?
Richmond School requirements.
And we are paying 35 for the fire?
Yep.
Any other questions on with the fire station? Then Kate,
Hey, actually did. So is there a way that we could get an alerting to this? Because like the fire station issue, it went on for months.
we're gonna, moving forward, I'm getting these flows every month, so I'm gonna run these charts for you every month.
Okay.
So as soon as the water department reads in 25th each month, I'm gonna get that report the next day.
who maintains that building?
Fire department?
Yeah,
The fire department. I guess, what do you mean?
And all?
We bring water softener salt. And lots of all there.
Who cleans it?
I mean, you bring a very valid point, and the same thing I was gonna say is, I mean, the lag on this, we're paying out like real money for something we're. And I mean,
Yeah, I guess I'm not looking to point fingers at this point, because, I mean, say it was a toilet in a room that doesn't get used very often. They may not even,
In the
Or-
community center.
they could use the toilet every day and not know there's a problem.
yeah,
But
I
if he's gonna
understand,
be
but they're
getting-
not plumbers, I mean, they're
Fine.
firefighters. and
Yeah, I guess the
understand
point of me
that.
bringing it up is that we didn't start looking into it until we started looking into it. Is there a way we,
Every month we'll get them.
Yeah, he's getting them now, so that's where he'll be able to monitor that.
So I got all historical from 23 and we'll keep mapping, moving forward in 24 and.
But I don't know what. I go by there almost every day, and sometimes there's nobody there for 2 or 3 days, and sometimes there's. Other than a meeting where you can see that there's 50 cars in the parking lot, even. When we have plan commission over there, there isn't that much that's there. But I think it'd be interesting to see what the use of that building is over time also.
I agree.
I know they have training over there because I go by there sometimes and there's. Vehicles there from 3 or 4 different departments, so they got. I don't know, 40 people over there for a day session, well, but that's not causing these kind of numbers.
But if it's metered now, if that's just a protocol you wanna set up with the fire department, that somebody reads the meter once a week or. Whatever period of time that you want them to, that would be a process that you would set up with the fire department. Because he's just going off of what Sussex provides, but you can read a meter at any given time, so it's just a matter of getting into that workflow.
does that staff know where it is? I don't know where the weed.
I mean,
I mean,
Sussex knows where.
We
it
were
is.
talking about
Yeah.
going over there at some point in time anyway, so,
You
We
do
didn't
already.
make it this month.
yeah, we didn't, but.
And at all.
Yep, that's who I get the.
Have
call
her
first from.
change the high lows, so. If you get something that's high, she can tell you.
Okay. Okay,
What was that? I didn't hear that.
They have, when a meter's being read, it goes around and you can have high and lows put into the system. Where it'll, okay, you have a house, you're on vacation, it comes out high, right away, so you can notify the people. Same way low, where you'd know if a meter's not working, it pops up that way. And it's,
Sounds like what I'm asking for.
yeah, it's,
How do we get that?
I'll call her and bring it up.
yeah,
I feel a lot better since I found out you put the meters in.
or do you?
Which I didn't know until tonight. At least there's some credibility in it. It is. I still
Anything
believe
else?
that there's a problem with Richmond School. And I don't believe that their reasoning is valid. There's something going on up there.
Well, now that we know that the pumps are being calculated incorrectly, that's a huge answer right there.
Right.
Because if they're using too high of a pumping rate,
Right.
that has a lot to do with the numbers that you're seeing. So,
Well, I mean,
especially on those high flow days, because it's gonna skew the opposite direction anyway. If your hour meter readings are high because of that plugged system, that's gonna even artificially inflate it even more. So.
I mean, if you have something administrative you want to bring up about Richmond lift station report, you can, because there's nothing else on the agenda.
I just don't believe that they've exhausted the investigation of what's going on up there, but I guess we should probably wait another 2 or 3 months to see with these revised meter readings to see if this thing levels up. Because we've got May and part of June yet when but they still run a summer school up there, so they don't shut down.
Mhm.
Plus, there's a tremendous amount of, especially in the winter, activity up there as far as sports and that. So maybe we could put it on the agenda and see where these flows are in 1st of July and see where things,
They'll be on every month, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I have thought along the same lines. I talked to Don, 2 weeks ago now? I think we have a better understanding of what's going on over there. We don't have the complete manual of what's going on, but I think we're headed in the right direction and.
I mean,
things,
they've televised the system so far and have not been able to find anything that would be a huge contributor to I. I think the downspouts or roof drains, it still has to be verified whether the plans show it going one area or not. I mean,
I think we need
Those
to do
gotta
some
be looked
dye
at.
testing up there and see, and those roof drains and see where they go. Until we've exhausted everything, I mean, the flow meters, stuff.
I would also too, we have to have something to compel them to do that. And when we do have the reports now that's saying that the readings come off the meter. What do we have to say that,
Well,
other than a hunch?
I would think if I was the school and I was the school board, I'd be I mean, we're talking real dollars. They're paying for it. And they see that, look, I could save $10,000 a year by figuring this mess out. I would think that should be the incentive for them to do that, but I realize never mind.
Jane?
So is there a downstream manhole at an outfall that we could just install a portable flow meter so that we could verify that the calculation is correct?
yeah, there's a manhole right outside the building,
I'm talking downstream from the force main.
downstream from the force main. Way downstream, yeah.
That'd be that
Because that might
one that
be-
they're-
Oh,
Then you're
so-
looking at a
yeah.
cumulative flow for both
The
the
fire
the
station.
fire station. So at least we would know if their calculation on our meter reading now at the 40 gallons a minute.
There's a gravity sewer starting in Redfield.
Right by the subdivision now.
There is one.
That's where the force main dumps in. That's when they cut that off. They cut 2,000 feet off of that force.
Right,
main.
because he used to go across 164.
That's where it goes. Gravity is right there.
So maybe that's not a bad, let's see what happens between now and the 1st of July.
I mean, what does that cost?
We rented one.
Wasn't that much. was
We
it?
rented one for Janine lift station. We were having a flow meter issue up there and we left it in for a couple months.
Yeah.
It's the install and the removal.
The labor to read them is cost more than the flow meter. They've got it, you have to go out there once a week and clean them out.
It's a good way to check against the meters and check against their calculation, but they are being billed by the well meter, so it's not, that's sewer.
But at
report.
least it would answer the question on the lift station
Right.
flows, you know, if that's that far off.
We have talked about that the pipes in the ground at the school, something could be wrong with them. Do you
That's
remember
where I
that
said
one?
they've televised those and as of right now, there's no cracks or, pipes that are pulled apart or
Mhm.
offset joints really to speak of, so.
We just don't know what all is going into the pipe.
Right,
I know the one time when I saw their lateral flowing fairly full. I raised an eyebrow, but now that I know they got an iron filter in there and they flushed that. That's what I'd like to find out from Ed too, is maybe what their schedule is for that and how long it flushes and. Cause that could have been what I seen when I saw it that day.
Sure, they have an air filter.
They do.
All right, anything more on Don's report?
Wanted to add on the business park lease, one of the questions that you guys have asked a few times is about the energies. Putting up the lights. On the We Energies putting up the lights, and so I got word, that, it takes about, between 20 and 15 weeks for We Energies to get lights up. We've been in the queue, so we're at about between 8 and 11. So you know, we're in the queue, we just have to wait our turn.
Yep.
okay, thank you.
Mike Sargent,
During the month, we had two incidents at grinder pumps where DeBellic was called out. And one of them, the bill indicated that they were correcting inferior wiring on a control panel. And I challenged that, saying, you've been maintaining our grinder pumps from day one. Why are you billing us for this? It turns out it was the grinder pump where the tank was repaired or replaced. And the person who did the tank replacement went in and wired the pump instead of wiring it properly, put electrical tape on it. So we were end up charged for that to correct it. But no grinder pumps failed. It was an alarm and control panel. So most of the grinder pump activity during the past month has been peripheral activities. The only other thing we have is that more and more of the customers are asking if we could arrange a method of payment other than check. Saying other utilities offer ACH or different things. We've never offered anything beyond accepting credit cards and checks. And the reason is that the belief was that the system was going to be, that we have, was going to be retired and replaced by a new system. So question comes up, you know, should we invest some money in the system to accommodate what some of the people are asking for?
Like, what do they want?
They want where we could set up ACH. ACH is, to me, is a nervous Nelly type of thing because we start initiating the removal of the money from their account. So if there's a house that sells and we're not notified, we'll be pulling money out of an account. And I really don't like it because there is no good method where the sanitary system is notified of ownership change. We know that the realtors call us or the title companies call us when they're doing the title search, but nobody ever tells us there is a change in ownership. So when we learn about it, it's normally 2 to 3 billing cycles that the new owners say, can you get the old guy's name off the bill and get my name on the bill? So I really feel uncomfortable initiating ACHs when we have such a loose system. But if that's something that we want to look at, the Workhorse software has capabilities of doing things like emailing bills as opposed to mailing bills and do ACH. It's just more risk in my mind.
And with us, just looking to bring that in-house with Casell, we need to spend more money on workforce to do that, to make those changes at this point. Would be my suggestion.
I don't think we wanted to make any changes now
Me either.
to clean up everything else. And have one unified system and it's just gonna cost the users more money.
I do agree with holding off on doing any of those changes, but one thing that we found has worked somewhat is sending a blank, like a blank application change of address form when you do your title letters. So that they would then, either the title company would send out if it's a change of ownership, or they pass on to the new buyer. Doesn't always work, but it's helped a lot.
You send it to the title company or the?
When you send in your title search. Yeah.
Okay.
Can you send him
us-
a form or something that you can have on record? Do you have a form like that, Mike?
We can create
Yes,
one. It's
pretty simple.
nothing special about it.
Okay.
All right, anything else, Tom?
Mm-mm.
Any committee questions were done? Or Tom?
Mike, you
You can change your name if you want.
to protect the innocent.
Yes, 6, unfinished business, discussion and necessary action regarding possible sewer rate study and recommendation of village board of same.
So I didn't get something in the packet. Ellers, you had asked me to look at Ellers, and Ellers actually came back to me today. They do sewer rate studies. They have been doing them for, decades. They would look at utility rates and also the long range capital planning. They'll take a look at the financial health from cash flow, and they'll do a 5-year look back, restricted and unrestricted, and check to see if the rates, how efficient they are. They'll take a look at our reserve levels, benchmark them against Corals and Brady's benchmarks, and they like to have 1 year, if we had a debt service, they'd like to make sure that we're capturing 1 year of debt service and 6 months of costs as an example.
Kathy, can you pick up my please?
Sorry. Long range projected revenue and expenditures, they would cover, and then how to fund future projects. And, answer the question, are we where we want to be with our rates? So that cost, is considered their first step cash flow is $4,500. If after that, they find that a rate adjustment is needed, then, another step after that would, to do that rate adjustment for us and lay it out, would be another $4,000. So it's a $4,500 to do the rate study, and, he said, we could get it done before budget, which is what we'd be looking for to make sure that we can, use the new rate in our budget calculations, so.
Can we
That's
act
what I
on-
have, but it's not gonna have-
Bless you.
Excuse me,
Can
thank
we
you.
act on that tonight, even though we don't have other than what you said?
We do have it on the agenda. It's up to the committee because I don't have anything in front of you. If you
Right.
feel that, you want to move on the $4,500 for Ellers to do a sewer rate study,
I,
that's up to you, the chairman and yourselves.
I would be in favor of that, just so we can get this thing going. By the time it gets to the board in June, you'll have something in writing from them. Correct? I mean,
Is there? I guess, is there any competitive bid we can draw for this? I know we just went single source.
I did, because it was only $4,500. It would have been a higher amount. I would have tried some others. We have a relationship with Ellers as our, as looking at our cash flows in-house. And so, and our bonding, and they would be the ones we would turn to if, in the future, the, utility district needed to bond out. So I went with, one of our current, vendors.
it's professional services. It doesn't have to be bid. They've got a history with the village, and I've worked with them for it since their inception, and they do very, very good work. And this is one of those things I certainly would not want to go with the low bid. I'm sure we can find somebody to do it for less money, and I wouldn't feel comfortable with that at all. You get what you pay for.
Jane?
They would likely have to provide support services to whatever other contractor you use anyway, because they have the historical information for the
Sure.
page. So,
Okay, what was the $4,000?
So
Second
the 4,500 was for
Second.
this first step for the cash flow, and if after they do the cash flow, they find out that a rate change needed to be made, they could do the work on the rate adjustment and take it out, like a 5-year rate adjustment and show how you could, if we were short on something, how we accommodated that. It's not a gimme, we might not need it. It might not be something that we need once they do the cash flow, so that's a second step. So we could move on the first step and leave the second step out, just do the $4,500.
and we would just be making a recommendation to the
to the
board.
village
Right.
board.
So, I mean, I agree with Joe that if, to keep things moving, we could make that recommendation now. And then hopefully Ellers could get you something in writing for your next board meeting. But
Mike, do you know when the last rate study was done?
I'm sorry,
Do you know when the last rate study was done?
Never,
way before me.
Way before.
never,
I
never.
mean, it's always
So
been,
it's good, first year,
the rate has always been set based on budget to break even.
Always a valid way to do budgeting.
Do you want to make that a motion, Mr. Everly?
Yes, I would make a motion, recommendation to the village board to retain Ellers and Associates for a sewer rate study
Cost?
at a cost of $4,500.
No
For-
more than.
part one,
Well, for part one, yeah, we'll go from there.
All right, anyone want to second Mr. Everly's motion?
I'll second that.
Seconded by Jane. Any discussion?
Yes, it should be no more than 4,500.
Is that point of clarification made and okay with the
Yes.
first and second?
Yes.
All right, All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, motion passes 5-0 for recommendation.
Thank you for doing that, Kevin.
Thank you.
Discussion necessary action regarding Richmond Forest Main maintenance or replacement and recommendation to the Village Board of State. Believe Don is kicking this off.
Yeah, last month you asked me to bring back the cost for those air relief valves that would have been brought before us. I think I got the quotes last year in February. I talked to Mark Grebe at Sabo Mechanical. He was supposed to have me updated quotes because they're over a year old. I was supposed to have them for tonight. I don't have them. But to give you an idea what he gave us last year in February, the stainless steel air relief valve was $4,125. Compared to an epoxy coated air relief valve, which is $1,732. And talking with him and what his guys experienced it out there, he would recommend one right now. On the one location they were at, manhole number 4 is where they had the most gas coming out of the line of solids.
And where is that? The
What's
number
that?
4.
Manhole number 4. I don't have a map with me, but
Okay,
Somewhere between Richmond School and Redford Hills.
yeah. Yeah,
Plus and minus 10 feet, you know.
so that's where we're at again. I was supposed to have updated cost estimates and I don't have any
Is there a service trip charge for that then?
for them to put it in.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's one of the questions I asked for, if these prices from February included their install, or is that just the cost of the valve itself? So
and what
I
did they
need
say?
clarification.
And as far as longevity, is the stainless steel lasting 3 times longer than the epoxy or?
My opinion, stainless steel is gonna last longer, and then we have had Sabo out to maintain them too.
Useful life on these?
Yep.
Longer than us
10,
alive,
15
maybe.
years,
Probably finished.
15 years.
Oh, okay. I thought it would be a lot shorter, but no.
Especially,
Part of the problem with the epoxy is if you're like having to take them apart to repair them, you're rubbing your epoxy off and then.
coating's gone.
Mhm. Now, is this paid for by the school and the fire department?
It's out of
That's
your
on the
rates.
force main.
Your user rates.
Yeah, I know.
I personally don't see any value in doing these. I think this is a shot in the dark. I realize it's an educated guess, but it's not anything better than that. We can go ahead, spend this money and be in the same situation we are before. I think we're just throwing money down a raffle. That's my opinion.
Can we table this until after discussion about the others,
Yeah.
gravity sewer?
But at one point, I agree with Joe. I think it depends on what we're gonna do with the discussion on the gravity sewer. We're not gonna look at the gravity sewer. I think then we need to look at something with the force main, because we know those pumps, we're eating through pumps.
If you want to make that motion.
I'd like to make a motion to table item 6B until, I'm sorry, is that the right one? 6B until we get done discussing 7A.
Motion made, any second?
I'll second.
And motion made and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? 5-0. New business 7A, discussion necessary action on Kunkel proposal for sewer area service, or sorry, sewer area study for proposed gravity sewer extension and recommendation of the village board of same.
Do you have in your packets, or on your desk, April 15th, that's the one we're gonna be looking at, not gonna.
Don, you wanna?
Yeah, so last month I had handed this out before the meeting. It wasn't on the agenda, but if you remember, we looked at a map at one point in time and it's in the proposal. Of running a gravity sewer. Where Sussex has their sewer basically dead ends just east of 164 on Lisbon Road.
West.
I'm sorry, west. Taking off from there, running it up, going it up High Road up to Richmond School. This would eliminate the need for the lift station and the force main that currently feeds the fire station and Richmond School. So this would be a study to look at that sewer, but then also look at the areas surrounding Richmond School as well, to see what else could be picked up by a sewer extension, to make sure we're maximizing the ability to serve additional areas with this sewer, not just focusing on the school. So that the focus of our report would be to look at what the capacity is downstream. We'll have to coordinate that with Sussex. Determine if we can go back, maybe increase the size of the sewer, pick up additional capacity, if there's additional capacity to be gotten by increasing that pipe size. And then again, maximizing what we can pick up in terms of overall area. The second map that I put in the proposals, just a zoomed out look of that area, if anybody wanted to look at certain subdivisions or areas, but that's gonna be the intent of the study, is to come up with the feasibility, you know, what size of area we can actually serve with this. And again, ultimately, it's gonna come down to the feasibility of construction too. I mean, we going through 10 feet of rock to get the sewer 20 feet deep, and doesn't really make sense in the end by the time you get looking at the cost of it. So, but the intent of this report is just to basically come to you guys and say, if we go this route in the future, we could expand this and serve this entire area with this initial extension. Questions?
Yeah, I do. What's the purpose of this doing now that we know we don't have anything set for the future? And who's paying for this?
I would think the village would be paying for this
The
if we did
village
it.
or the utility?
There is no utility. Village, that's all we have anymore.
Okay.
It's the village, but it's gonna be, if this, it's gonna, you're gonna look at the service area, the area that would be, okay, but that's. You would. Eventually, if this were to go through, you'd have an assessment area. And the people that would be utilizing this pipe would be assessed the cost of it. We don't have a utility anymore, so you would have an assessment district like you do any other.
Well, no, I didn't say sanitary, I said utility, and that's what we're addressed as, public works and utility.
But we don't have a utility.
Well, it would come out of your current ratepayers likely would pay for this
Exactly.
initial cost,
Exactly.
Right,
which
so-
is ultimately paying for all the improvements within your utility anyway. So you look, in my opinion, you look at this as something to benefit the community as a whole in the future.
I mean, it's peanuts compared to what the cost of the sewer is going to be.
Yeah, this is
Yeah,
really not
yeah.
a huge charge.
This is nothing.
I was
What
quite
do you call
impressed.
a huge charge?
$50,000, $100,000 for planning. So this is like step one in this whole process. He is looking into to find what areas can be served if we did this. And you're looking at areas that with potential development, where you're looking at areas with 30-year-old septic systems. So that's the purpose behind a utility or a utility district. And quite honestly, that's the purpose of a municipality providing services to their residents.
As an example, the vacant land to the west across the street of Marine Drive is zoned B1. It's business. That area can be served by the sewer. That would result in development, which provides tax revenue. Otherwise, whether or not that property can be developed without sanitary sewer is questionable because of the high groundwater. I live there. There's a lot of problems with high groundwater in those areas that people cannot develop land, including homes, if you got high groundwater. We've got problems right now in Arrowhead West because we got 4 lots that they're gonna have to fill 5 feet in order to build houses on. So you don't know these answers to these questions until you do some initial studies.
I understand that. I mean, obviously, I'm not dumb. I understand that.
See, you're
ju-
dumb.
No, I'm just saying, but I just object to the money that was transferred over these people to pay for it. That's all. The people online, like you said, are paying for it. That's what I object to.
But I'm paying
Yeah, I
for
was
it
saying,
too in my house.
everybody,
I'm not, because I pay taxes to the village of Lisbon.
But your tax money's not going for it, Joe.
It is now because there is no sanitary district
I
anymore.
understand that, but the money that was transferred over from the sanitary districts is sitting there, 1,200,000, 4, whatever it is. And that's what's be paying this $50,000 to $100,000, correct?
No,
Maybe I misspoke because I don't know exactly how the board will be paying for a study such as this.
Kathy, how is it gonna be paid?
Well, like. This 8960 would be paid by the village. What, fund would be decided by the village board.
I have no problem doing it. I just don't think it's
it's
fair.
it's no different than the village board having to investigate a solution to replace the Richmond force main.
Mhm.
I mean, if that's gonna be way more than $8,900.
Yeah,
I mean, yes, the project cost of this is potentially more than replacing that line, but like to Jane's point, we don't serve anybody other than the fire department and the school on that huge long line that's undersized. So we wouldn't, I'm not an engineer, but correct me if I'm wrong, we couldn't even service those people on Richmond Road with that size of a line.
No.
So we have a pipe running past people's house that may have 30-year-old systems that are failing, and it may be beneficial to them as a homeowner to have the ability to have that option.
plus you have all this undeveloped land that would be able to be developed, which brings in tax revenue, which pays for the village. I mean, it's the only way it's gonna happen.
I mean, ultimately, this is a big planning tool for the village. You know, it's not just a sewer. You're really looking at development and expansion. And expansion of services.
And I think that this is just the start. There's gonna be more studies like this that are necessary to deal with development, existing and proposed. You can't have it if you don't have the utilities. If you don't have sanitary sewer, you're gonna have 5-acre lots for people because there's a lot of land that can't develop without sanitary sewer.
As well as you can, it really holds back on what you can do in your business zoning too, because they're going in on septic. You're really limiting the businesses that can come into the village.
Or if you design something like this with blinders on focused at the school, the next thing down the road, you're gonna have lift stations all over having to pump up to this, even if we'd make it big enough. So that's why you do this study to look at everything that could be brought in and maximize the capacity that's there and available.
This is truly a very economical study, but it's a start. A lot more is gonna have to be done if you do it in stages. And at every point along the process, there's a decision point where you go next, but we can't get to square one without doing this.
And I would equate it to, it's along the similar thought process of the, can't remember the subdivision we just did for water. Off of EV,
Oh, yeah. Oh, Circle Crest Park?
Circle Crest. I mean, there was starting points and there was decisions, and then we got to an economical roadblock, and
And those costs weren't paid by this group,
the costs were paid by the village.
yes.
And it'll be no different than this. The village will have to authorize 8960. But it's the first step to get to step 2.
We can't do anything with the force main on Richmond Road until we get the answers to this question first, because you have to look at alternatives. And even if it's the alternatives, this is gonna have to be looked at in conjunction with the alternatives for the force main on Richmond Road. The force main on Richmond Road is useless right now. So we're either gonna have to replace that and also look at what else we're going to do and who else the users are going to be on Richmond Road versus this alternative. It's not just put in a new 4-inch force main. No, that's the mistake they made in the first place. We're not gonna do that again. That's where it gets back to this question about these air release valves. It's like throwing good money after bad. We need more information.
I mean, we would have to, essentially, if we replace the system along Richmond, we'd have to figure out what we can replace it with.
You'd be looking at that again because they cut 2,000 feet off of it. Now it goes into a gravity sewer in that subdivision. So you'd be looking at it again to see what.
I mean, we
can
could,
do
we
different.
could potentially have a plan to get to gravity at a certain point.
Right.
If it's there, but also we would look at between Richmond School and Redford Hills, the adjacent properties and the areas that could flow into there, and which of those we would pick up as we went along. We're not gonna have just Richmond School, the fire station, and it comes out here. We're not gonna do that again.
Yeah.
It's not gonna happen. So we have to look at who can benefit by this sewer versus who can benefit by this sewer.
Any more staff reporting on this?
What are you looking at for a timeline?
I got to go at, I'd say I could have it at the June meeting. I think May would be a push.
Kathy, when can this be on the agenda for the village board? If we, May, you can?
May.
So you thinking a month after authorization done?
Pretty close. That'd be a push, but I think we can get it done.
Well, I'll make a motion, nobody else will, to the village board to authorize Conkle to perform the sewer study as presented in their proposal of April 15th.
Motion made by Mr. Eberly,
Second,
second by Ms. Mueller. Any discussion further? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Yay.
Motion carries 4-1. All right, there was a motion made earlier for 6B to bring it back. Is there a motion to bring it off the table?
I'll make that motion to.
Motion made by Ms. Miller, I'll second. Any discussion?
Could you explain that again?
I'm just bringing 6B back off the
Oh,
table.
B, okay,
6B.
okay.
Any other discussion? All in favor of bringing it off the table?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, it's brought off the table. Discussion necessary action regarding Richmond Force Main maintenance or replacement and recommendation of the village board of same.
I would like to make a motion to install an epoxy lined air release valve on the Richmond Force Main at manhole 4.
Motion's made. Anyone second? I'll second, I want to hear discussion on it, so I'll second your motion. Discussion.
I believe that we need to do something in the interim since this is just a designing tool. And even if we decide to go ahead with installing the gravity sewer, that's gonna be a period of time. And in the meantime, we've just installed 2 new pumps at that lift station. And if we could at least make an attempt to alleviate some of the frustration with the pressure on that pump station, because construction, it's gonna take a long time for this thing to go, even if it's a gravity situation. But I think we need to do something to relieve the pressure on that force main.
One thing I have, now that's been motion second, one thing to discuss though is what, we don't know what we have for labor.
Right. Yeah, I need to get you some clarification, really actual solid numbers since it's February 23. So.
I just don't believe that we know what we're doing. It's an educated guess. I understand that. I understand it may help, it may not help. But it's pure speculation as everything I've heard since I've been sitting on this committee.
Do we have a report that there's a PSI?
All I can tell you is they pulled the clean out apart at that location. They had a ton of gas come out of that and there was no solids.
So that was what they had.
But there's no guarantee that this is gonna solve anything. That's what I'm getting at. And
That's why I went with the epoxy, just because we're kind of in this limbo.
is this, how many of these are we talking about?
Just
One
one for right now.
for $1,300 or 17?
That's where I'm saying I gotta get clarification, this number is.
Okay, if that's the case, then we spend a couple $1,000, maybe we get lucky, but I don't think we're going to.
I don't think it's gonna solve all of our problems, but it could help
could.
alleviate some of them.
I mean, we can't, I don't know how we can act on it tonight when we don't know how many dollars we're talking about. We could be talking $3,000-4,000, and I don't wanna recommend something to the village board that we're plus or minus
I don't think
200%.
1 month's gonna kill us, so I can bring back the updated ones that in your packet for me, like I said, I should have. had it
That's a
for-
good idea.
I'll withdraw my motion.
Well, we can vote on it, and just,
Okay, that's fine.
I mean, if you want, you can withdraw it, but it's already been motioned and seconded, so. We can vote on it. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
I heard two, all opposed, say nay.
Nay,
Hey,
So 2-3, motion fails. Staff direction is to get a labor number.
total cost,
And-
estimated costs.
I'll add that in your packet for me.
We'll,
You find
we'll add
out
that
what
to
the
8
height
then.
is of that?
Yeah.
Cause it's one of the higher ones, you know,
I'll have everything for manual for that.
you know more about it than I do, but why, once it gets over it. There's a suction coming down after it's coming down. Right. That would be why your release is sitting.
We think,
So if
That
you're
force-
pumping,
we don't know that, what
All
that
right,
force
we
mean.
gotta keep it back to,
Right.
Okay.
agenda here. Yeah, add that to 8.
Thank you.
All right, we already did 7A, discussion, so 7B, discussion necessary action regarding Mary Hill Road. Walnut speed study and recommendation of village board of same. Kathy, you want to introduce the history why this is here tonight?
So we've had some residents that have been concerned about, in this case, it's Mary Hill. We do have some new subdivisions that are looking to come into this and drop into Mary Hill, a lot more houses, so residents around in that area are very concerned. We did the speed study just to get an idea if we're having trouble. It was set up very close where the entrance of the October Field subdivision would be, so we haven't been able to get the speed coming through would be. We've had complaints that our residents are having trouble running across the road to get to their mailbox. And sometimes they feel like they're playing problem. So we went ahead and contacted the sheriff's department for the speed study.
So last year, when I was here, we talked about the purchase of the speed studies. We have done 8 or 9 of them, I believe, in the village since we have received those. I don't know which ones you guys all have in front of you. I have the 9 speed studies in front of me. Out of all of the speed studies, excluding this one on Mary Hill, our highest enforceable violations was 16%. This one came in at 25%. It'll be up to you as a committee to see what you want to do with the speed. We can conduct heavy enforcement in that area, however, noting that we do have calls for service in a large village to cover, with one deputy working 24 hours a day. So we can dedicate resources to that speed if we're looking just for speed enforcement. I don't know if that is your goal or if your goal is to look at this and determine if there should be a change in that speed.
We're dealing with these individually, correct? Mary Hill and Walnut.
Yeah, Mary Hill first.
Yep, we have 3 speed studies, Mary Hill, Walnut, and Better John.
So the one right now is Mary Hill south of Walnut.
But we're, okay,
So we're just talking about this one.
Mhm.
okay. Well, I think that an adjustment in the posted speed for Mary Hill is valid. Because of the vertical alignment, the fact that that road has no shoulders on it. The vertical alignment is drastic, to say the least, And we've got possibly 4 to 5 subdivisions that are gonna be going out onto that road, including Vista Run from Sussex. And I think it's more than valid to do that. I was out there this afternoon, right about after lunchtime, and there were people other than I that were driving over the speed limit. I was driving the speed limit. But it's, if you drive from Silver Spring south, first of all, you come over the first hill, you can't see where the two entrances, new entrances are going to be there. One from Vista Run with 300 homes coming out onto there, and the other one from the new subdivision that Newman also is putting across the street in the village of Lisbon, and they're gonna be like this. So then you go down, you go past Ski Hill, you go up that road and you head down towards Richmond. There's gonna be one new subdivision there and possibly two, the second one being on the corner there. And if you drive the other way going north on Mary Hill, you come along from Richmond going south and you drop and you come right over that whole thing, and there's two brand new intersections that are gonna be there, and all that's gonna be puking out onto there. And there is, the shoulder on that road is, I am not exaggerating, it is about this. If somebody had to avoid a car or something, that there's a lot of homes that exit onto Mary Hill. And if somebody had to come out of their driveway and somebody's screaming along there at 60, 70 miles an hour. There's no guarantee that changing it to 35 is going to solve all the problems, but it should certainly help. And we don't have at least I don't believe we have the resources from the sheriff's department to plant somebody out there 8 hours a day. There's other things that have to be done that come up in every minute. So I for the vertical alignment, the fact there's no shoulders out there, we're gonna have increased traffic from 4 to 5 brand new subdivisions, significant subdivisions. I would recommend to the village board a reduction in posted speed to 35.
Was that a motion?
Yes.
Okay. Motion made by Mr. Everly. Anyone want a second?
I will second.
Second made by Ms. Beal. Discussion. I guess I'll start it off with. One, we have to be conscious there is a statutory authority over changing speed limits. So we have to understand if we are legally obligated to. And then we also need to define a zone, essentially, where would it start and where would it terminate?
What's the first part, Mark? I don't, you know more.
So
You guys
so
know more
there's a
about this than I
statutory
do.
authority in 34911. So to lower a fixed limit. I believe it would be for this zone. We could lower the maximum lowering could be to 35, but it has to be a town road with 1,000 foot. 1,000 foot minimum with 100 foot or less of driveway spacing, 150 feet or less of driveway spacing.
Well, first of all, who's got the authority for Mary Hill? Do the right of way between Lisbon and Sussex is right down the center line. But who's got the authority to over that jurisdiction over that road?
And that is a good question I do not know the answer to.
Because if we can only, I mean, we're not gonna do the southbound because it's in Lisbon and then Sussex. I don't know how that works. You guys do this for a living.
I would have to
I
look
just
at
know
the-
enough to be dangerous.
The GIS mapping.
Or would it be brought also to Sussex attention on this because we do share the road?
Well,
I don't know.
If that was the case, we wouldn't talk to the Sussex. Where they,
Then I think we should hold off on a decision. Until we have information that we need.
I mean, we also have issues with regard to the subdivision entrances that come onto Mary Hill Road. And I was always under the impression, because the municipal boundaries run down the center line, but Kathy seemed to think that Lisbon's got the whole right of way. I hope that, because when Vista Run and whatever it's called across the street come together, and they're gonna not be opposite of each other, we gotta make sure that we coordinate that on the plan commission, the village board, that those two entrances are properly done. And lo and behold, what runs through there but a stream and a box culvert that's too narrow. So it's gonna be interesting. So
I did bring it up to Sussex. I did bring that, concern up to Sussex.
And what did they say?
They didn't think it was that far out. They didn't really look into it because we're not there yet, but, it's they thought that the box culvert was outside of the, egress.
it's not, the tapers are gonna have to be done for Vista Run are going to affect the east side of that box culvert, and the tapers are gonna have to be done on the west side for the Lisbon subdivision they're going to intersect. And on top of that, you've got a hill that you're coming down, you're coming over that hill going southbound, and bam.
I have to say, I've ridden it, obviously a lot over the years, and I do agree with you, Joe. I think there's so much going on here, and I'm afraid we can agree. But I think it should be lowered myself, because I know, it's hard to get out on a 45 speed limit. There was a woman the other day that was going to her mailbox, and she stood way back, waiting for the traffic to go by, and then took.
Because there's no shoulders.
I do that
Exactly.
Every day.
Huh?
I do that every day.
Yeah.
I don't want to get hit either. My only comment is it time to do it now, or do we wait until the subdivisions are
They're
developed?
coming,
I understand that they're coming, but
but Lisbon's side of the road, they're coming back sometime in the next few months. They've been there before the plan commission 3 times or twice. And they're coming back again, so it's going to happen. And Vista Run is moving to the west. They're just putting in the next 2 phases right now, even as we speak. Sewer's going in the ground. So they're gonna be out to Mary Hill probably within the next 3-4 years.
I think it would be more impactful when people actually see that development happening. Than if you try to change it next week and then there's nothing and then they're just gonna ignore it anyway. That's.
Well,
my
the
fear.
subdivision down in Lisbon, near Richmond Road is gonna happen probably first. I would suspect they'll be under construction by the end of this year. And the one in Lisbon on the west side of Mary Hill near Silver Spring, against Silver Spring, is probably gonna be under construction the beginning of next year also. So,
Just that looking at GIS. It looks like we share the roadway jurisdiction. For purposes of GIS ownership. Starting just north of Mary Hills where we start sharing it. There's 6 properties on Mary Hill that are in Lisbon. And then as soon as it gets to the wooded area, as you're going down the hill, that's where it turns to Sussex.
and then it goes back to Lisbon.
Well, it's shared at that point,
Yeah.
going north.
But that doesn't mean who's got jurisdiction over setting speed limits.
Well, it's,
We ran into that.
I remember we ran into some obstacles when we tried to move Oakwood Road speed sign.
Mhm.
4 years ago, and it wasn't as easy.
That was with Merton, wasn't it?
It wasn't as easy as just changing the speed.
Right, I know. I understand. That's why I don't know who's,
So, my thoughts are to, that I would need to look, to answer your question, I would need to look at our agreement with Sussex on our road jurisdictions. Because that was something that was part of our agreement, and just make sure what areas we were responsible for. This came up because October Fields did come in, they did have a meeting with the residents in Partridge Hills. This was one of the suggestions from the people in Partridge Hills. Was to and the people on, to reduce density. I'm not advocating to do it now, I just wanted to bring it forward to have a new speed study, that's why I had the speed study done. In anticipation that in the next month or so, we are gonna see October Fields come to the plan commission, and we've got the speed study, and this discussion would be helpful.
And one thing we gotta think too is, Hillside Road, we went through that issue. And I believe Mary Hill is a little steeper than Hillside Road. To get back up. When we went,
People were concerned about getting,
Mhm.
yeah, it's-
So, I mean, we're still in discussion phase here. My vote will ultimately be to deny the motion. Or oppose the motion, just because I think we have legality research that needs to be done. We have developmental considerations that need to be done. And I think we have unclear authority as far as who owns what portions of the roadway.
I have no problem withdrawing the motion.
Let's just, I mean, if we have more discussion, I want to hear it now. And I guess this will give us an opportunity to give staff direction on what we want them to do.
I withdraw my second.
But it's been motioned and seconded.
Okay. Oh, I thought he was withdrawing it. Okay.
Whatever the recorder wants to put down.
so, direction for staff.
That's what I'm trying to gain here from this discussion.
I think we need to know who has jurisdiction over the posting of speeds northbound and southbound between Silver Spring and Richmond Road on Mary Hill Road. And as long as you're doing that, we might as well determine or have determined who's got jurisdiction over the entrances for Vista Run and for whatever it's gonna be called. Yeah,
And also, 349.11 is the authority to modify speed restrictions by a local municipality. So I want to make sure that our council is aware.
I drove through, I forget where it was within the last week. Where it went from 55 to 25. I think it was. I'm not gonna say it, but it seemed kind of strange because they were 100 feet.
In Lisbon here?
No.
I was gonna say.
Any other discussion relating to the motion and second? All right, at this point, we'll ask for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
That's
Yeah, I
one.
made the motion.
And any opposed, say nay.
Nay.
Nay. Dan, you got
Well, I never got a second then. Never mind.
are you a yea or nay?
we're getting rid of the motion, yes, yeah,
Well, the motion, his motion is to approve.
You want to vote no?
all right,
Vote no.
no.
You want to vote yes?
Okay, so I have 4 nays.
So
Motion fails 1-4.
Want to check out the costs. I agree. And who can, not the cost, but who's got authority to do it?
Unless you can clone yourself in about another 10 people.
Yeah.
But same.
Can't do that.
All right, the next is 7C, discussion and necessary action regarding,
We jumped into
We
that
jumped into that. Yeah.
on the last one.
yep, I'm still gonna call it so we can discussion necessary action regarding request for speed reduction on Mary Hill Road and recommendation of the village board of same.
I thought we just did that. Let's see, we're done.
Mhm.
We're down to D.
So does anyone want to make a motion on this item?
I'm sorry, Mark, which one we're dealing?
7C,
I thought,
I called 7B. Discussion relating to Mary Hill spilled over, could have been handled under 7C.
okay, well, it's the same thing.
But you would have to make a motion on.
Okay, I'll make a motion to table that item until next month.
I
Public
second.
Works Week.
I second.
Motion made by Mr. Everly, seconded by Ms. Beal.
Agree with you tonight.
Discussion on this.
Scary.
Do we want to give staff any clarification?
No,
I think it's still looking at the legality of whether we can make that, whatever that state statute was.
All right, motion's been made and seconded to table. And all in favor say aye. Aye. And opposed, say nay. Motion carries 5-0. 7D, discussion and necessary action regarding Walnut Grove Drive and Terry Lane speed study. And recommendation to village board of same.
Thank you for that one in front of you as well. That was a significantly lower traffic volume. When we were looking at Mary Hill, that was about 4,000 cars evaluated in that week's time frame. When looking at the Walnut Grove one, it was only 940. Very high traffic on, or very high speeds with lower traffic on that one. Average speed is 37 miles per hour in the posted 25.
Wow.
And that's running between K and Rybeck Road?
Ainsworth.
Yep. It's a thoroughfare.
Yeah, I know how
Yeah.
it goes.
Yeah.
It's like,
It's probably being used as a cut through.
yeah, I mean, they're screaming, I mean, there's. When you get down the bottom, there's hardly any houses down through there, but I understand exactly what they're doing. They're cutting from the village of Merton. Cause I got some written instructions on Rybeck Road, so I know that the speed limit is on there. It's
Yeah.
only 35 down there.
Really?
Yeah. I
On
can,
Rybeck?
I can verify that one. Your Honor.
Was it me?
No. It was a very, very nice deputy who informed me that I was incorrect. I thought it was 55. But,
So,
well,
back in March, staff had asked Mitch for a speed
Mhm,
bump.
mhm.
Has anyone ever been returned on that one as an option for?
We're gonna be talking about speed bumps in the next, in E
Yeah.
Mhm.
for this road.
What's the speed again? Is it 35 in that subdivision? Or
25.
20.
25, yeah. It should be in a
and that's,
subdivision.
what's that, half a mile? Between Silver
I don't
Spring
have
and
that
Rybeck?
distance. I can try to pull it up on the GIS map.
I don't have my contraption here today. I think it's a half mile.
And it was also brought up that Joe, I believe at the time, said they can put speed bumps in. Am I correct?
Speed bump.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
it's kind of frowned upon by us for plow purposes.
that's true. That's what he said. Yeah, okay.
So not to combine D and E, but I guess the purpose of D is only to hear what the results are. Was there historical analysis from Walnut Grove?
Not from Walnut Grove. I do have one from Batterjohn as well.
I don't know that one.
It kind of runs together in E.
Yeah, I don't think, for the purposes of this agenda item, we'll just have to consider Walnut Grove.
No, the only one that we have from that is the October of 2023. Which we could do another one if you want updated information.
For where you're talking about Walnut Grove.
Walnut Grove.
Mhm.
I don't travel this very often, but was there any kinds of construction rerouting or reason why people would start going that way a lot?
I think that was during the addition of a new subdivision in the village of Merton just north of there. Cause they recently put in that new Hellquest subdivision off of Ainsworth and, just west of that intersection.
That's all that stuff in the village of Merton is. On north and on the south is Lisbon, on the north is the village of Merton. It's gone, I mean, it's all developed, or it's all about developing, and I think that people who live in those subdivisions, I'm just surmising, who want to go to Heartland instead of going west. They're going south and they're screaming through there and they see that there's only, those are large lots there. And even though the road isn't, it's like this.
It's a very
it's nice.
curvy road, which I will say, we did have to redo the speed study because we couldn't get accurate reads the first time. This was the corrected version. Those curves made it a little difficult for that. But I do think that part of that is because that is a newer road that cuts through.
They come out of Merton Oaks and all that, and they wanna go to Heartland, and instead of going west, they go right up to K. Right up through there, I keep saying right by it's Rainsworth, but that's what's happening, and then there's newer subdivisions that are coming through there also. I'm not surprised by that. I'm sure that's a racetrack going through there at night.
So do we want them to do another speed study?
That construction is still going on. That Helquest subdivision isn't finished yet. In the Village of Merton, it's Ainsworth and Winkleman that's still under construction, so we can do another speed study. I don't know if there's gonna be much of a change, but we'll absolutely do another one.
What's our, I mean, the speed limit's already 25, correct?
Right.
So other than enforcement,
Yeah.
there's really nothing else to do. Or is there another alternative?
It was considered high enforcement. I think anything over 20% is considered high enforcement per the results.
Yeah, I had noticed that, Heartland was dealing with a proposal on County Highway KE from K North. They have that new Newman development that's going on to the east side, and there was talks last month, I don't know what the resolution was, but they were having a public hearing about amending the village comprehensive plan regarding that development, there was like a reroute of County Highway K instead of KE instead of going.
Oh, yeah, that's gonna have, we used to live over there, they're gonna go through where the goats and the sheep are, and they're gonna cut that off, they were gonna.
Yeah, so it was gonna like,
Yeah, it's gonna be a loop in there, and instead of running through into Seaman's property, and Seaman quit putting back the fence on K on their subdivision, because that's the fourth time. But yeah, they're gonna reroute that eventually, the next piece of property on the west of that develops, that will be rerouted, go through the old horse farm and through where the sheep are.
and I think Merton Village also had a hearing on it. Just close to, I think that improvement would definitely help the subdivision, make it more desirable to use KE. Yeah. KE.
I mean, I don't know what we can do other than to. I'm sure there's a lot of trucking that goes down Walnut Grove also to go between the village of Merton and Heartland off of 16. Cause that's the only way they can get 2x4s and roofing and concrete and everything else back in through there, and they run through there as opposed to going down and doing this.
Well, yeah, Winkleman is a county highway, so that would be exempt from any weight restrictions.
Right.
I'm not sure about trucking on over here.
I mean, I don't know if it would help at all to post Walnut Grove as they do
Also has no
for
through
trucking, but that is kind of quite frankly, a joke also, because like Batter John is posted for 6 ton, and if I got $1 for every truck that went through there and cut off that thing, I'd be a rich man. And again, it's an enforcement thing. You gotta catch them, you gotta drag them over to the scales.
Yeah, I mean, we don't have any complaints of trucking on that road before us. We received one complaint that essentially started this from Mr. Eggers on Walnut Grove Court.
I guess what are all our alternatives? That's where I'm not sure where this is going if it's already 25.
Mhm. Would it help to put grooves in the road every so often that will slow these cars down? Does that make sense?
I don't slow cars down.
Okay, because it goes like this,
No,
just a thought.
all that does is annoy the people who live there because they have to hear it
Yes.
24/7, just like that bump that's on Silver Spring
Yeah.
right across the street from my house.
Oh.
Every gravel truck in the world assists 25 times an hour.
Could you put potholes in there to slow them down?
Do you have any left over by any chance you could relocate?
Yeah.
So this, when I put the speed studies on, when I put this, when I thought about putting the speed studies on, I was just thinking, when we do a speed study, it'd be good for the board to discuss it and see what's happening on our roads, because we can get people that contact us about speeding and trucks and such. But, I didn't expect any action at this point.
Okay.
I just wanted it for, knowledge, giving you some knowledge on the roads. The next one is something that we might discuss action.
All right, I mean, do we have any staff direction out of this? We can continue to ask the sheriff for
Vastly,
targeted enforcement.
periodically,
The
release.
target enforcement as well as another speed study.
So. There's not a motion out of this, I will move to 7E. Discussion necessary action regarding requests for speed bumps on Batter John and Walnut Grove. And recommendation of village board of same.
Well, we've had some residents that have asked, we've had residents come in and ask for, something to happen on Better John, for instance. And, those, a couple of those same, people have gotten called or made emails, asked where we were in the process. Without bringing it back, might be a good idea to discuss, some options. They were thinking either speed bumps or cul-de-sac. I thought the speed bumps were something that we could revisit. I didn't talk to Nick about speed bumps. I did get, a cost on speed bumps from Mitch. They run between $35 and $4,500 asphalted. And they're humps, they're not bumps, they're humps. It's good to have, if you decide to do a speed hump, which it shouldn't be closer than 75 feet from any intersection or 100 feet from any stop sign. So there are a few things on speed humps. There are speed humps in our in the state. There's speed humps in New York, New Jersey, and other places that have snow as well. So I just brought it forward because it was something that was discussed at a past meeting. The resident asked where we were on, and we never discussed it again, so kind of shut it down last time. Not bringing it back might be worth the discussion.
If you want another speed study, we can do that one. The last speed study from Batter John was February of 2023 with a very low enforcement of 4%. Average speed was 32 in the posted 25.
Do you have a volume on that?
4,600 cars in 8 days.
And that's.
Oh, I'm sorry, I was looking at the wrong one. It was 4,600 cars. It was actually in 18 days.
What they were trying to do was stop the cutoffs, the people that are cutting through from one side to the other. That's because of, they talked about bus situations and bus stops, and I did contact the bus company in the school, and they thought bus stops are in the proper locations. So they were not interested in doing anything.
So from those numbers, I heard it's a traffic volume matter rather than a enforceable violation matter.
Yeah, and a lot of this stemmed from one very eager citizen who was reaching out on a very regular basis that I think we've been communicating with regularly.
Happens to be moving, by the way.
I'm sorry?
Who happens to be moving?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
We did a lot of direct enforcement with no violations observed.
It's just the volume that, yeah, on Better John, Walnut Grove, you just talked about, that's a little different story.
Is there any difference in the heights of the bumps that can be put in that might not affect snow plowing, but still might be effective for people zooming through there?
So I'm sure the size does make a difference, but I don't know exactly for rules
for the speed of a road, and it has to be 18 inches wide by 4 inches, you know, I don't really know what
Okay,
code is really what it is.
okay,
But, I know the Bolton ones are not probably gonna work very well, because you
Yeah.
can, definitely can't take a plow over that,
Yeah.
so it'd have to be an asphalt
Yeah.
one we talked about,
right,
so. Obviously Batter John, I don't think would work at all, because there's 4 stop signs or 3 stop signs in there, so you
Yeah.
can't get anywhere
yeah,
with a speed
You-
bump.
Yeah,
But,
exactly.
and I don't know for curves either, once you get onto Walnut Grove, because it's curvy, I don't know if you want it to
Yes.
be bumping a curve, so I would have to be. Placing it out, and again, what the rule is, 4 inches high by 18 inches, does that have to be bigger? You know, that's stuff I'd have to kind of talk to Mitch about and see what kind of. You know, what the specifications are for that, and. I'm down to try it once, you know, do a set to see how it is, but, you know, the plow guy's saying his car guy's flipping on it, you know, every time he has to lift the plow every time. And it's like a plow when it's snowing, a car hits it, you know, then. But again,
Same time too, them being asphalt, they're gonna disappear.
Yeah. And I am very convinced it's not going to change anything as far as speed. If they're going, in fact, they're gonna do something to launch cars off of those darn things. I live there, and the problem doesn't exist. Okay, I've had these people on my front porch yelling and screaming at me about this. And one of the people that was there, I saw go through the stop signs after they put up the new ones. We've got 4 stop signs between Kettle Moraine and Silver Spring. And it's not going to, the people who are going to exceed the posted 25 are going to continue. I don't care what you put out there. And all they're gonna do is, we're gonna find pieces and parts of cars laying alongside behind the curb when they hit those darn things. I mean, I saw school buses go through those stop signs. So I'm just adamant about this. I've had people who, and it's a very small percentage of the residents of that subdivision who are very vocal. It's not the subdivision.
you know, I think of other subdivisions like ours on Susan, where I am, because we're on a curve. I mean, I think every subdivision is gonna have speeders coming through. I'm sorry, I see a lot of people coming past us that are way more than the posted speed limits. I think we could say that. And we have a bus stop right on our corner for kids. You know, a driveway, so I think unfortunately, it's probably more common to speed through, and some of these kids or people, it shouldn't, not just be kids, but it's any age. Will go through speeding, so I don't know if this would help either, the speed bumps, especially when you say there's 4 stop signs on Batter John. That's a lot.
I think it was added after, we added
Yeah.
stop signs after the last complaint, to try to slow people down in there and maybe deter the ones that were going through and doing cut throughs.
Would it help by putting lights around it like they did on
You wanna
Hillside?
live in that house and have
No,
those flashing
no,
red lights in your
no,
window
no.
24/7?
Or some like these flags or something that they can put on it. That
They,
was-
if they can't read
They're
they
not
can't
gonna
read a speed limit
That's
sign, they
true.
can't read a posted weight limit sign, they can't find stop signs.
Yeah,
I don't think all the flags in the world are gonna do it.
yeah, okay.
One thing that the Walnut Grove does not have is there's no control at the intersection of Walnut Grove and Walnut Grove Court. One of the options I thought of is turning that into a controlled intersection by way of a stop sign on all 3 legs. So it's another option.
Where is that in relationship between the ends of it? I don't,
Closer to,
It's-
opposite sides of Ainsworth.
it's down near the north side.
It's on the south.
It's the
third.
only,
South
it's the
side.
only court that,
Yeah, I think
that's right.
it's way up near the north end.
It's about a third of the way from K.
Unless you wanted to do Terry Lane, that's about halfway, but it currently dead ends.
So.
It's not any different than people blowing through stoplights and stop signs at intersections right now. I've gotten to the point where I just won't move for 5 seconds after the lights dim.
Yeah, I mean, my only thought is even if they're blowing. Even if they're blowing the stop sign, generally they're going to. At least slow down a little bit, so. You would hope.
You guys have more experience than I do. I just know what I see out my back window.
Well, either way, we'll push it out for continued enforcement, especially with Walnut Grove.
Um. Anyone have a motion on the last agenda item? 7E.
No action.
All right, hearing none, we'll move on to 8. Items to be placed on future agenda. I guess one thing I'll add is the speed study on. I know we gave you a little bit of work, but would it be possible in a month to get that Walnut Grove?
Yeah, I'll have them put back up. They'll be back up on Friday. We generally let them run for either 1 week or 2 weeks, depending on traffic volume.
Does that catch in both directions? I saw them when they were over on Batter John on the post. I didn't know how they work.
Yeah, so we have to measure the lanes and then it tracks depending on which way they're going.
One of our residents put up cameras on Batter John about a year and a half ago, and he was informed. The deputy came over to my house, asked me if I put them up.
Really?
And I said, no, but I can pretty well guess who did, and it was, and he had to remove them. You can't do that.
Put cameras on one of those signs.
You can't put cameras. He didn't, he took them off the stop signs and he put them on a post, and he was told to take them off of there.
A post,
Yeah.
on his own post, in his own way.
Yeah, and it wasn't in his yard. It was in the public right away.
So something.
This is the same person who believes he lives in the village of Sussex.
So I'll put on, for 8, I'll put on, discuss the new speed study on Walnut Grove Drive. And then,
We've got the,
I'll also put on there discussion necessary action regarding possible controls, traffic controls on Walnut Grove Drive.
and we've got the air release valves.
And I think that one was added, right?
And the 65-35, Kathy.
Staff have those?
So these are the ones that I've got. And the 65-35.
got the cost.
you have that?
Cost sharing between Richmond and fire.
Cost split,
Yes.
bring to,
I have, 6A goes back on, 7A goes back on.
Kathy, give it your mic, please.
I have, 6A goes on, 7A goes on. Discussion of the, speed study on Walnut Grove and, discussion and possible action on control. Speed controls for,
And we're,
I do not have 6A because we had a motion.
correct.
right. 6A, we recommend them.
uh,
I have
6A.
6B.
I meant 6B.
Okay,
And then also 7C.
yep, got it. 70.
We got full of.
Don,
7A.
We need to add item 2 for, repair, I got a quote for repair replacement of lift station pump for, Dubnickel lift station.
Really?
One went down, there's a spare we had at Sussex that went in, so Rabadon took it back and we got a quote from them, I just got it for repair and replacement.
You just didn't get it in time. Thank you.
But the station's up and running with 2 pumps.
any other items for 8? We'll be moving to 9.
Motion for adjournment.
Motion made by Mr. Everly, seconded by myself,
Second,
Ms. Beal. Any discussion?
That's
All in favor, say aye.
I think.
Aye.
Take your medication.
you too.
We still need a couple more ayes if they,
Aye.
Aye, aye.
thank you. And any
Sorry.
nays? Hearing none, motion to pass is 5-0.
Yeah.
Thank you. Meeting adjourned at 6:39.
Oh,